After a week of disappearance, we return. The trusty Three Musketeers of Nintendo Switch are back, and there are a boatload of games to discuss. So welcome one and all to episode 5 of the Switched On podcast. You thought we were done after 4. You thought we quit. You thought we let you down, but we didn't. We're back. I'm your host, Zach from SwitchForce, and we have, as always, well, not as always. Last week, Zach, you were sick. How did that?
I was sick,
how did that
yes.
progress?
I mean, I just had a nasal infection. Honestly, I have nasal infections all the time.
Yeah.
Although there was a bit where I was getting a nasal infection like every 4 months.
Wow.
And then I realized it was because like every time I'd have one, I would go in to get antibiotics, mainly because I'm a singer, so I want to be able to sing again right away.
Right.
And like I have a lot of stuff that comes up. But I realized that like because of that, like I wasn't addicted or anything, but I just think that like it stopped working. Like it wasn't actually doing much.
Gotcha.
So then I basically just at this point stopped going into the doctor anytime I get one. And then after that, it's like spanned out a lot less. Now I'll get maybe a couple a year or something, which is a lot better.
Yeah.
So, but I just had to basically wait it out. It took like 3 or 4 days to get better. And then I was also going on a trip during that. So I went to Boise, Idaho. I saw some of my family. I went fishing with my grandpa,
As
who
you
I
do.
haven't seen in ages, as one does when they go to Idaho. What else do? You go fish. But yeah, it was a good time. And then but no, I'm back. I'm feeling better, and I'm actually in California, back in sunny California. So I'm back in my new apartment, my new studio setup. So yeah, I'm back. I'm back and feeling good.
I'm glad you're
Everybody
feeling
thought
better.
you left forever, man.
Yeah, I really like.
Now
I
the,
thought about it. I was like, do I really want to see Joseph again, Zach again? I don't
ask
know.
myself that every day, man. Every day.
I really like the Pokemon Yellow, Pokemon Red vibe you've got going in the background there.
Yeah,
Yeah, you got it. You understand.
brand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally planned that.
really,
Totally planned
really nice. Joseph,
I didn't just get two free rocket speakers that have to be really cool colors. But yeah.
Joseph, you're back as well. Since you and
I
I
am.
we were here 2 weeks ago, but we both did not fulfill our podcast obligations last week. It just got really busy.
Yeah.
Really hectic. And part of that chaos was just so many games. Like this is basically November. Like there is so much to play, and shockingly, like it's all been good. Nothing really has come out and been super disappointing. I even saw today that Damon Ex Machina reviews
Machina, the
are
reviews,
solid.
yeah.
What in the world?
I know. I can't believe that. It was like, and I mean, there were some stuff where it was like, I think IGN gave it like a 6.5 or something, where like that was kind of more so what I was expecting. But I saw some 9s. I saw like
Yeah.
a 4 out of 5, like pretty good. So that's exciting.
Seems like they took the demo criticism to heart and they really
Yeah.
tried to step things up. Although I will say there's kind of still a like general disinterest around the game,
Yeah.
at least to me, because of all the bad press in the beginning. So it's interesting that it's getting a lot of good reviews, and maybe I will actually give it a shot now.
Well, we've got a bunch to talk about, from Astral Chain to my insane experience with Blasphemous, a few other indies as well. We'll probably touch on the Apple event from the other day, give you our Switch Lite plans, because next episode we'll have, well, I guess when you hear next episode we'll have Switch Lites, unless
Yeah.
we get insanely lucky. But that's coming around the corner super soon. We've obviously got your questions. And I took a road trip. I know that, Zach, you've been traveling. Joseph, you road tripped it up. I road tripped it as well. I did get to play Switch at a yurt, which was one of the
A yurt?
the coolest experiences. So
Could you explain to our viewers
So-
just what a yurt is, in case they don't know?
a yurt is basically, think of a glorified tent that has a much more solid external structure. So this was in the mountains of Tennessee. My girlfriend and I were driving from my house in Indiana down to our apartment in Florida to bring some stuff, including my car. That was the main thing. We also put in some other things, my Funko Pop collection, some of my controller collections,
Nice.
some Switch games, some physical Switch games, because I didn't have any of those here. But besides that, so we found this Airbnb that was on like a cliffside in Tennessee, because we were going to go check out Ruby Falls, which is this cave there that has a waterfall inside the cave. And I've never been inside a cave, but there is a Nintendo connection to the cave, so I'll get there in a second. First, the yurt. Again, like it kind of felt like on one hand it was very much like a little hut that you just find on like some very undeveloped area, but it also was super nice. But it was completely circular, so it felt like it was like Walt Disney's Home of the Future, like straight out of Epcot. And you walked in, there was a kitchen and living room, and then you could go around the perimeter, and there would be the bedroom, and then the next part of the perimeter, the bathroom. But it was all like all circularly connected, no really defining walls except like a little jut out wall. So like no separation, but at the same time separation. The middle was open, and it was just this little like. It honestly made me be like, man, I'm just gonna sell everything, get rid of my house, get rid of my apartment, and live on the side of a mountain, because it was so peaceful and so nice. We were only there for one night, but it was just.
I don't know why, but your description of it, I'm just picturing you guys on this hillside, but in an igloo.
It's more like a hobbit home, but not built into the side of a mountain, more like sitting on top.
Okay,
nice.
That's
I mean,
cool.
that sounds a lot cooler than an igloo.
Yeah,
I like
it wasn't cold.
I'll take a hobbit.
It was
home.
warm.
Yeah.
It was really cool, and again, just like I've been so inundated with computers and screens, as we all are, that having a day of like going into a cave and seeing high schoolers being goofy and weird and climbing some mountains and staying in a yurt, it's just like, dang, this is what life is supposed to be about, and we've just messed it all up. But I did get to play Switch up on the like they had like a outdoor patio by the yurt, like looking over like a humongous mountain.
That's awesome.
And I got to play a little Blasphemous, so we'll touch on that a little bit later. But unfortunately, like, I can't play Switch in the car, which I tried again, and it just does not work. Even when I was the passenger on this 2-person road trip, like, it's not for me, which sucks.
Yeah,
so
I know. I'm the same way. I could barely look at my phone anymore. I don't know.
We're
Throughout
getting
the years,
old.
man. I know. It has to be. It has to be.
Age is playing its final card. Well, hopefully not its final card. That makes it sound like we're
yeah.
This is the last episode, everybody. We're done for. I hope not. All right, I think we'll just get into the game segment, because there's so freaking much outside of Switch. There's been a ton, but we won't talk about that. I will say that Borderlands 3 is incredible. Joseph, I know you've been saying that Gears 5 is incredible.
Yep.
Also, I have to give you props, because you called that it would be like more open world, and then
I know.
I was like,
I was
thought you were so dumb when you said that back at E3.
Yeah, I thought I was dumb when I said it too. I was just
So
banking
dumb.
on my usual thoughts. But yeah, it opened up, and I was like, oh no, I called this.
You are
It's
secretly
cool, though.
part of the coalition.
Yeah, not a secret anymore. Thanks, Zach. Gave that away.
Sorry. I will say that Microsoft sent me the Gears 5 console, and it is very pretty.
Yeah, it did look very, very nice.
It's very, very pretty. At a certain point, like, what do you do with an extra Xbox when you have like 6 of them? So I think I might give it away or sell it or something, because I'm trying to live the yurt life. You can't fit 6 Xboxes in a yurt. It's only like 300 square feet or something.
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
a 2 Xbox place.
Yeah, or maybe even 1 Xbox. Maybe not even. Maybe you don't even need an Xbox. There was surprisingly like
Whoa.
Wi-Fi, Netflix streaming, TVs.
Really?
It's like, yeah, and an oven that was so small it really looked like an easy bake oven. Like, it dinged every time you like opened it. It was classic. But all right, let's start with the big one, which we've wanted to talk about for a while, and now unfortunately we're behind the times, so we don't have to spend a ton of time on it. But Astral Chain was something all of us were like super eager for, and I'm very curious to know you guys' take, because I feel like the initial rush was like super hyper positive, but since then I've heard a lot of like counterpoints and counter responses to the game.
Yeah, it has
I
had
can
a
definitely see
pretty
where that's
interesting
coming
run.
from.
And it's funny too, because like, you know, I think I got it, obviously, like I was playing it the day it dropped. So, and I think Trip, you asked us, right? Because you didn't get it immediately. But you
I
were
didn't
like,
actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of hesitant because I'd been hearing some stuff, and I was like, I just don't know if this is really like the game for me. It sounded like it was just kind of honestly like a generic hack and slash is how like a few of my friends had like talked about it, which to me just wasn't that interesting. But then, yeah, I ended up obviously picking it up, and then I quickly was like, no, there's a lot more to it than that, obviously. I think
Yeah.
the first like hour or two is a little strange because it sets you up thinking that like it's just gonna be like a hack and slash and there's like this is all there is to it, and then after the first like couple hours, we were talking about this, Joseph, like it really like transforms and becomes like a totally different game. You end up getting multiple legions, you get, you know, there's a lot more like moves and strategies that you can use. You can use your chain to like send creatures like flying, you can wrap up monsters. There's a lot lot of different things you can do. And I will say, I think one of the most interesting things about the game is just how far they go to like keep you interested and keep you excited and keep you entertained. Like in the beginning, it starts off you're on a motorcycle, and then the entire rest of the game till like way later on, you don't even get on that motorcycle again. And then like they have mini games, they've got, you know, segments where you're platforming, they've got puzzle segments, they've got tons of action. You know, there is a lot that they do to try and I think successfully keep the game super interesting. And there's a lot of stories. So like one of my favorite things is just it feels like you literally are playing through like a really top tier anime, which is pretty exciting. I will also admit though that for me some of the combat and like controls don't work perfectly the way I'd like. Sometimes, especially when you're platforming, you're using like your Legion to like you shoot it across and you get to another platform and it like drags you over, but I don't feel like those segments are particularly like tight, you know, so I feel like I end up falling and dying a lot, like whereas I don't die during battle hardly. So that's interesting. I die more like in the platforming segments than anything else. Also they do have a lot of things you can do and customize with your legions. You can give them special abilities and special roles, but one of my biggest complaints is that when you try to use some of those, like it takes too long. Like there's this like pause where like, oh, like I'm pressing the button and I'm waiting for my legion to like do that, but as it's happening I get attacked and then suddenly like the ability you can't use it anymore. So sometimes that's pretty frustrating. So then I will end up like using it more like a hack and slash than I'd like, even though there are like infinite things you can do. One of the coolest things is one of your legions later on, you can actually like kind of go inside the legion and you get to like, you know, be this brawler and like use your legion. Anyway, there's a lot of amazing things about the game. There's also definitely some things that I'm not a huge fan of, but overall I've been really impressed, honestly, and I do think it deserves all the hype, you know.
Yeah, and I agree for the most part. What's funny is like, so you know, for me it was kind of the opposite, where like when I first started it was this huge rush of I was just super hyped about it. And then it kind of slowed down for me, not saying that the game necessarily wasn't hype, but like you said, the platforming parts, there are some parts that like throw you off, well, threw me off at least. I will say it's a great game, and the game is at its best when it's really banking on its unique features. Like, no joke, I remember when I realized that you could use the chain to actually wrap up the enemies. Like the chain is a physical thing between you and your legion. That's not like just an aesthetic choice. It's a real thing. When I realized that blew me away. It's such a dumb, small mechanic, but it like opens up a world of so many like possibilities. And then of course, using each legion to utilize their special, like, because each of them have like a special ability. I only have 2 of the legions. I know there's a lot more, but between the 2 that I have, they were so different, like in their playstyle. And I mean, yeah, they really do give you a lot. But I do agree, Zach, that for some reason there has been this kind of shift in, I guess, like the conscious of everyone playing it, where it's like some people are pointing out, like you said, the flaws, and for some reason now the fact that the light's being shined on them, a lot of people are like, well, yeah, I guess that is true.
Well, and I wonder if it has to do with the fact that, and this is just pure hypothesis, like, in a vacuum, I think it seems better than in comparison to the blitzkrieg of bigger releases that we've had surrounding it. And I wonder if some of that plays a role. Like, this is this very Japanese Platinum Games game that now is vying for time with Gears of War, Control, Borderlands 3 is close. There's a freaking Modern Warfare beta, and maybe that's a little bit of it. Like in its own window, it's like, wow, this is the best thing out. But because there's so much else out there, it's like, maybe it's not as like straight up, it's not as massive in scope or scale or visual, proficiency as Gears of War 5. It is just not.
Yeah, and I mean that speaks volumes to, like, I can tell you right now, I'm playing Gears 5 currently. And I left Astral Chain to do that. And I'm not saying Gears 5 is a necessarily better game. They're both very different, and they do what they do fantastic, in a fantastic manner. But Gears 5 was an event. Like, the moment that game dropped, I knew, I was like, well, I have to play this. It's such a big thing, and they're making it a big thing. So yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a lot of credence to the fact that it might have just hit in a really bad time. And that's a lot of games are hitting within the next 3 months. So it is going to be tough seeing what does stay, like, you know, the initial thought, like, hey, this is great, and then what keeps that, you know, as we go on, because there are so many drops back to back. It's going to be interesting to see what people actually do stick to playing.
My other theory is...
And I agree with that. I think part of it is that, like, there's a few key things in Astral that keep it from being, like, that top insane, like, Gears 5 level experience.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I guess my problem shouldn't be that, like, you know, there's a few things keeping it from there, and so then that bums me out. It's like, oh, man, it's so close to being, like, a 10. Like, if they had done this, this, and this, it would be, like, right there. But it's still, honestly, in my opinion, like, a solid 8 or 9. And so just because of that, and because, you know, I mean, it's great to play on the Switch, and I think it's one of their best action games, like, in a while. So I do think there's still a lot of credence there and a lot to be proud of, and it is a super fun time no matter what. Even in between bits of, like, oh my gosh, like, I wish these controls like worked a little better, and I wish it was a little more precise. I'm still having a blast, and I'm still really enjoying, like, following along with the story. I'm almost done with the game, and I will say there's a lot of twists and turns that really do keep you interested, and the more you play it, I will say also, like, the better it gets. Like, the first, like, 2 or 3 levels, I was like, oh, this is all right, and then by, like, the 5th level, I was, like, hooked, and I just had to keep playing. So there is a lot of cool stuff there.
Do you know?
But I agree that.
I was gonna say, do you know how long you've played, since you said you're getting close to the end? What that campaign timer is?
I honestly haven't checked the time, but I do feel like I've probably put a good, like, 40 or 50
Oh, wow.
into it.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, and it is a big game. Like, there is a lot to do. Like, there really is a lot to do. And I feel like, for me, like, I play games slow, honestly, so my 40 or 50 hours, like, someone else could have beaten it in, like, you know, 30 or 40 or something.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there's a lot to do. There's a lot of side quests. There's a lot of interesting, like, you know, different missions and things you can do. So I've been having a blast with it. You know, I've been trying to, like, get as much out of the game as possible, and I do think there is a lot there. So
Sadly, I played like an hour, and then I got distracted. And I'm gonna blame Nintendo for a bit of it, because we touched on this a few weeks ago, that maybe their marketing wasn't as heavy as it should have been, and I think that their marketing for other things honestly was distracting. The Direct was a couple days after it came out, and, like, it felt like it shifted the focus immediately to
100%.
what's next, what's coming out next, and I guess I'm a 2019 ADD internet user, but, like, it's like, well, on to the next thing. Here's what's coming out next. Here's what we got. And so, like, they kind of did a disservice. But what I'm most curious about is, and what I've heard the most, sort of both sides of the same coin on, how do you feel about the non-combat segments? Like, are those fun for you?
of Astral Chain?
Yeah.
Honestly, well, the side quest stuff is not honestly that interesting to me. To be fair, like, I've done quite a few. It depends. Like, there's segments where they're like, oh, you can go do side quests, and then there's other segments when they're, like, specifically like, go do this, like, and then they want you to do the side quests. I feel like when they're just like, you can, it's less interesting to me. I'm kind of like, okay, I don't feel like these are really that important, and I don't really see them going anywhere. But then there's segments, where they're like do this, and then, like, the side quests actually become the main quest. That's, to me, like, some of the most interesting. There are a lot of fun, like, little mini games. There's this, like, dog mini game, like, with Lappy, and then there's another one where you're, like, putting where cars go. But I think, like, the story stuff, honestly, in between is some of my favorite. I do feel like the story is really interesting and enthralling. The weird part about the story is that the main character, whoever you decide to play as, like, they hardly ever talk, and then the other character talks, like, all the time, which is fine, I guess. But it does make your main character seem a little, like, uninteresting, because they just have this blank face the whole time.
It's more like picking who you want to hear from instead of picking who you're going to play. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was a really interesting thing too, because you have the voice actors for both twins. Why not just have them both have dialogue? Like, it's absolutely fine. We don't need a silent protagonist. For me, like, so the way they do missions is really interesting, and I see a lot of people talk about it, but I also see a lot of people not really get it, because some people are like, oh, so in between, is it open world? Is it like, and
it's
it
like
kind of
semi-open
it's like,
world.
So each file that you play, that's like the levels, drops you into this open area, I'll say, and there's a bunch of mini stories going on. You're basically going in and you're investigating, and there's a lot of things happening, and your goal is to try to figure out how is all this connected. And I will say, if you mentally put yourself into it and you're just like, I'm in this. I'm going to try to figure this out. It works fantastically. Like, you could really get immersed. The problem I found is there was a point where I had to go because I was like packing up to come back to New York while I was playing, and I'm in a file, like I'm in a mission, and I'm like, I do not care. Like, I am just trying to get to the next set piece so I can save and get out, like get to the HQ and head out. And that is when those parts of the game get really like dragged on, is when you're trying to rush to like, well, I want to know what the next big thing is. I feel like if you find yourself taking it slowly and actually allowing yourself to get immersed in the world, it's a lot more bearable than if you're like, I just want to fight the next boss. So if that's the mentality,
this game would do well to have an autosave feature, or at least a feature where you get to save whenever you want, because there are a lot of segments where you're like, okay, well, I have to be at HQ to save, and it's like, okay, I just did all these like side quests, and
exactly. And you get afraid because you're like, I don't know if I turn off my Switch right now, how far back I'm gonna be, and that kind of sucks. But yeah, I think the non-combat stuff, as Tripp said earlier, they are, Platinum Games is probably the most interesting like company because they're so weird. They're so unapologetically Japanese with how they handle it. It's such, everything's an anime. I mean, the game has an anime opening. I was like blown away. I was like, oh man. So yeah, it's always interesting. I'll say that. But I can see that people would, it'd be hit or miss with a lot of people, those segments of, well, I'm a detective now. But I like.
I think the detective stuff is done well. I think it's interesting. It's not too complicated, but it's also interesting enough to keep you going. But I also will say it's nowhere near as enthralling as like the open world of like Spider-Man in between missions.
Exactly.
It's not something that levels that. And there are a lot of times where I find myself going, okay, like these are fun and all, but it does feel like just grindy. And so then I'm like, I kind of just want to get to the next mission. And there are a few times where I just skip past and I'm like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I think they, like you said, Joseph, they're a really interesting company. They do a lot to keep you entertained. And I think one of the most interesting things about the game is that 1 hour of the game is going to be totally different than the next hour.
For sure.
There are bits that feel similar. It's like, okay, I know I'm going to go in here now and there's going to be a ton of side quests. But then in between there's like, oh, now I can solve this giant puzzle to get somewhere in the astral plane, or now I can play this mini game, or now it's all story driven, and now I'm in a different place and I'm interviewing, and now I'm just fighting on top of fighting. So there's a lot of cool pieces there, but I definitely see why people would get bogged down by the in between stuff and just overall not care.
So what is our verdict? I can't give you one because I've only played a little, but like from what it was hyped up to be, from spending your $60, is it like at the end of the day, is it a thumbs up?
It's a thumbs up.
100%,
honestly, for me, it's super worth the $60 because I will admit I played a couple of games this week also that I didn't think
were that great. Yeah,
stood up to their price range. And at the very least, this game is a $60 title. They put a ton in. It's not like you play 10 hours. You're like, oh, really? That's all there is. There's there's some replayability, like even going back and like using your legions now that they have higher levels and stuff. And there's a lot you can do. I do think it's a solid game. I give it a big thumbs up.
Yeah, same. I didn't make it as far, but like I'm definitely going to go back and play it. I think it's a solid 8 to it, even a 9. At its best, it's like a 9 out of 10 for sure. Like it kills it. It's a really good game.
And it at least lives up to the hype, considering that in the beginning people were giving it a lot of like review bombs that hadn't even played the game and just didn't like Switch games. So no matter what, it's way better than like a 6 or whatever the audience score was in the beginning. And so I don't think it quite lives up to what I had imagined when I first saw the trailer of the game. I'll give you that. Like that, when it first dropped, I was like, this thing's going to be insane. But it still is pretty close to that, honestly.
But does it blow you away like Blasphemous in its opening minutes?
I don't know. You'll have to tell me, Zach. I don't know.
Blasphemous.
I'm so excited
the beginning
about
of Blasphemous.
Blasphemous is this indie title that has gotten hype because it's like a Dark Souls Metroidvania. And the early trailers, like, you clearly got, like, oh, it's going to be probably gory and there's, like, some religious overtones. But they did not prepare me for what you witness in that opening scene. And, like, I guess I was more just, like, surprised, not grossed out, but just, like, your dude has this long, pointy hat. That's, like, your character's helmet. And in the opening scene, your character kills a boss drains the boss's blood into his helmet and then puts it back on his head as the blood is just going all over his face. And then it's like, this is blasphemous. Welcome to the game. And every character you speak to is talking about how you have to, like, you know, bear the sins and the penitence and the grief of the Lord, and that there are thorns. As your sword powers up, there are thorns that grow on the sword to cut your hands, and the hilt of the sword is shaped like the Lord, and so he will, you know, be happy that you're feeling the sins of the world as you. I was just like, holy cow! And it's pixelated too, which makes it so good, because you're literally dumping someone else's blood on your head with pixels, which is cute. And like, I had read some of the reviews before I hopped in, like, oh, it got really good marks, and someone somewhere said, like, the religious stuff doesn't really matter. And I guess it doesn't from the gameplay perspective, but it is loaded with that. And I feel like if this game came out a few years ago, it would be like the talk of the town, because literally everything, like, your upgrades are rosary beads. And as you, like I said, as your sword grows, it gains thorns to cut you and make you bleed. And every character you talk to, like, this one person is stuck on this tree in this snowy mountain, and they're telling you, like, hey, you need to go get these oils so that I can be burned and finally die, because, you know, it's just, like, so painful up here on this tree, but I'm so glad that I get to suffer. And I was just like, jeez, holy cow, like, this is my new little indie pixelated Switch game I'm playing for fun. But if you can get past that, which honestly some people I don't think will be able to, and not for the gore factor, but just because it is overwhelmingly committed to its lore and its tone, which kudos to them. I don't know why you choose to make that your MO for a game, but the actual gameplay is like superstar. It is a very quality, difficult Metroidvania Dark Souls type experience that does a lot of smart things. So it's got many interlocking systems, and you really have to go through the player tips as you progress to fully grasp. But there's parrying, there's execution moves, there's regular attacks. You have, like, basically your Estus Flask, like, vials that will give you health. There are the equivalent of bonfire shrines that respawn enemies but refill your health. You can cut yourself to convert some of your health into, like, your magic, basically, which is creepy. And this is a great example of why I think the game is just so well made, in spite of the bloodletting and the blood pouring in your own hat. But it's just so weird. It's such a weird sight to see. Anyhow, I thought that I had found a loophole where I was just trading health for, I think it's called Fury or something, a lot, Fervor maybe. And I thought right before I hit the bonfire type thing, I do that, and then I bonfire to refill my health, and I just basically have maximum whatever. Little did I know that it's capturing your currency as well. So it takes health and currency to convert this. So, like, they thought of everything. I think that's a good example of how the systems are tightly knit from all directions. You don't lose the equivalent of souls, which are tears in this game, by the way. You collecting the tears of the enemies. But you don't lose any when you die. You just lose the ability to collect them at the same rate. So there's no set percentage, but I'm assuming it's like, oh, now when you kill enemies, you only get 90% of the tears, and also your magic meter is limited. And what's cool here is, you know how, like, in Dark Souls, you die once, you either go back and get your body, or if you die again, it's gone, it's cleared out. Yeah. So this one, you can literally scatter your essence or your deaths around the map, and it just continues to dock you over and over again. And then you can go grab them. Like, you can have 3 dead bodies out there, go grab them all and refill your meter, which I thought was, like, a really nice way of being, like, there is obviously a punishment for death, but it's not so punishing that you feel frustrated, because it's not going to be an instance where you lose significant progress. In fact, you won't lose any progress. You'll just lose the ability to, I guess, go forward as quickly. And there are vendors that sell you all sorts of weird religious objects, but will clear out, like, say you're like, you know what, Joseph, I died 6 times. I don't want to go get all my old bodies. That's annoying. Too many tears. It's too sad. Too much blood. Then you just go and pay this dude, and he clears out all those. Your meters fill back up. Your rate goes back to 100%. It's just like I'm shocked that for a game that doesn't have a ton of pedigree, it is as sound as it is. And there's a lot of platforming. Like, you can stab your sword into walls for, like, wall climbing and jumps. Interesting mechanics right off the bat, like, these jumps look impossible. I thought I had to Metroidvania my way to a power-up. No, in fact, the wind was blowing both directions. I just didn't even recognize it. And I'm surprised by how tricky it is from the get-go. You start off with a boss fight. Your first enemy you face is a boss, which is ballsy. But it's, gosh, like every enemy is just gross and evil, and it feels like it's so pixelated, but I feel like I am fully immersed in this psycho world of Blasphemous. It's very, very cool if you can get past like the oh my god moments that kind of begin the game. I don't know if it gets weirder as you go along. I've only played a couple hours, but it's definitely a memorable experience and a quality one.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds super cool. I love the idea of instead of halting your progress, it slows you down. That's an ingenious idea. Because now it's like you said, you don't get frustrated. Like with Dark Souls, man, sometimes you just die and you're like so just not bothered to try to get back all the stuff you lost. So it's cool to think like they somehow incorporated that system that was built in like the Souls games, but also kind of evolve it in a more interesting way. That's like still punishing, but also, allows for an interesting mechanic. I'm actually really interested in the story, as you say, because I can't like that must be so weird, like to just jump in, and especially like you said, the visual aspect of it, the fact that it's pixels. Like I don't know how they could juxtapose like a story like that with imagery. Like
it's just super weird because the animation's really good. Like there's a lot of visual variety. It's like the controls are great. It's very responsive and snappy. But this could easily be a game where you're like a little lizard boy trying to save his town with the same mechanics, but instead they're like, nope, you are this very, very religious dude who is paying for, I don't know, his own sins or whatever. And like, it's fascinating that that's what they went with. But I do think this is something that kind of hooks you because it's like, where are they going to go? Like, what is this? So many of these Metroidvania games on Switch are like, okay, save the village, or like, oh no, there's this apocalyptic event coming and we have to prepare, the young mage or whatever. Nope, this one is fill your little pointy helmet with blood and dump it on your own head. And it's like pouring out the eye holes, and I was just like, oh my god. How is this? Like Dante's Inferno.
Main character for Smash.
Gosh.
I don't know, I might take that little lizard boy defending the town.
It's definitely not like a happy time.
Over the blood poured helmet and the god reference.
Something else that's really interesting to me is it's the first time in forever that I was gonna say I'm at Disney World way too much.
Someone's got it.
Way too much. It's right in my head. But it's the first time in a long time that I felt like the handheld controls were hindering my success a little bit. Not a lot, but like I really wanted a controller because it requires so much movement so quickly of like jumping and stabbing your sword in the wall and then jumping off and then attacking enemies above you and then attacking enemies below you and then using your magic, and like you're on all the buttons all the time. And I was kind of wish I had like bigger like Pro Controller buttons instead of like the little Joy-Con little chiclet buttons. And then I was thinking about how will I feel on the Switch Lite, which has the different buttons. Yeah. They're the squishy buttons, and they're smaller. But it was weird just because I don't think it's any fault of the game. It just rarely happens where I'm like, oh, I wish I had another controller. And so I'm probably going to end up playing most of it docked, even though it's a cool handheld thing. I don't know. I was playing it in bed the other day, and I was like, God, like what is happening as I collect these tears? And I mean, it's really cool though. I recommend it wholeheartedly. I think it is one of the cooler indie games that has come out this year. And hey, if you're gonna do something, you might as well do it differently, right? Like you will not confuse Blasphemous with anything else. You won't be like, which one is that? Is that the how there's that Owl Boy game and then there's Eagle Island and I think there's one more that are all very similar. This one, like, nope, it's Blasphemous, and I think it is one of the smartest implementations of Dark Souls mechanics and systems because they have made some changes that aren't just superfluous changes to be dumb and goofy, but like, no, I kind of like the way some of their systems work, maybe a bit better. So that's Blasphemous, and that's what I played at the year.
Does it get the thumbs up? It sounds like
it gets the thumbs up. It was not working with my calm screen-free internet life, but it definitely was taking me somewhere. So
That's cool.
You played it in the yurt?
yeah,
Right? Yeah.
yeah.
Did the yurt like impact your experience at all?
I don't
Like,
know.
specifically?
Maybe if the yurt started talking, or if like a giant like statue rose out of the bottom of the yurt because I was unlocking. I don't know. And it's very much like Dark Souls. You collect these items that are different, like religious icons or whatever, but they have no purpose beyond lore, it seems, which is, not that Dark Souls didn't have purpose to its items, but a lot of times you'd find like the story of the game via the item descriptions.
Yeah.
And it seems to be trying to pull off a similar thing. But like, yeah, you upgrade your sword, you upgrade your character, you get different like magic abilities. It's very cool. Thumbs up. Go get Blasphemous if you can stomach it.
If you can stomach it, yeah.
What else? We got any
otherwise.
lighter Lizard Boy fare?
I have been playing this game called Legend of the Skyfish, which is very, very simple and very cutesy, and there's no blood helmets.
It's a Zelda, like a
Yeah.
Legend of Zelda clone, right?
Nah,
No?
I wouldn't call it a Zelda clone. Honestly, I feel like that's the rap it's getting just mainly because of the name,
Okay.
I guess, Legend of the Skyfish. And honestly, I mean, the Skyfish sounds like, the Windfish,
Windfish,
from
yeah.
Zelda a little bit, for sure. I mean, the game is super simple. It's like, they call it an adventure puzzler, but honestly, the puzzles are pretty simple. I think it's just addicting because they have this this mechanic of this fishing rod that you use that you can equally like use as a grappling hook to get to like other islands and different parts, and then it can also like drag enemies closer to you. You can also attack enemies with it by just hitting them with it. And I don't know why, it's super simple, but something about the mechanic has kind of got me addicted. It's just so much fun, like shooting it at enemies, like dragging them closer, and then I'm just like shooting around the map, zipping around all with a fishing rod. Like, I wish the game had a bit more story for sure, but honestly, I've just been enjoying it. Like, it's the perfect game to just pick up for like 2 minutes, play a bit, and then put back down. There's like 45 levels. I think I've beaten like 10 of them. It's not like a AAA game or anything, but it's like $1. I think I got it for like $2.
It's got some weird art.
It's got some weird art. Honestly, like I don't see people enjoying this, but for some reason it like just caught my attention, and I've enjoyed it. I don't know, it's just fun.
Well,
it's a good time.
you
If you want
you.
a really simple, cheap game, that is a good one to at least spend a couple hours on.
I'm curious, like, what made you decide to, like, what was it? Just that it was cheap?
No, honestly, the trailer kind of made me think it was gonna have more to do with like the story. I like anything with like fish and like, I don't know, something.
You were fishing with your grandpa. You're like, gotta get that fish game.
Wow. But anytime like it's like combining the sea with the sky, I don't know, something about that interests me. It's like, oh, like a skyfish. That just sounded cool.
Yeah.
And like the trailer made it seem like it was gonna be a little more story driven, honestly. But like as soon as I started playing, like the story was like that much, and then I was already like playing. I was like, oh, okay, well, I was hoping for something more here. But then the mechanic hooked me, so I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll keep playing just because the mechanic's kind of fun, and I'm hoping that there's more story later on. We'll see. I don't know. The story hooked me. I thought that would be cool. I don't really think it's trying that hard to be like Zelda, and honestly, if it is, then it's failing. But I could definitely see why people think that. The Legend of the Skyfish, like, it definitely sounds a lot like The Legend of Zelda, But I think the art style is, like, it's cute, it's fun. Don't, if you play this game, you're like, oh, Zach said it was great, or whatever you decide to call it. Trip said it was great. Then don't hold me to that. I'm not saying this game's for everybody, but I had a good time with it, and there's no blood helmets, so like it's a good chill, fun simple time. So I've been playing a bit of that. Like, what else? What have you guys been playing? There's a lot of games out there. There's so much.
Many of them are on Switch.
A ton of different stuff.
But
Yeah, I've
been playing a lot of games on Switch. I don't know, man.
I've been playing River City Girls, which I don't know.
oh
if you guys-
yeah, tell me about this.
Man, that game is fantastic.
Yeah?
I absolutely. Yeah, this is 2 thumbs up. Honestly, it's such a okay. So it's based off River City. What is it called? It's not Rampage. It's
Ransom.
the old Ransom. Thank you. The old NES game. Which, funny enough, I played when the NES online like game system thing came out. And so it's kind of a reboot of that series where it takes place in the same city. It is a beat 'em up with, gorgeous like pixel graphics. It's animated super well, and it is probably like. Have you guys ever played the Scott Pilgrim beat 'em up like back in the day? It's like they kind of have the same vibe, but this game is so much bigger in scope. It's this huge, like, it's an open world game. Like, there's no levels. There's like legitimate missions. There's side missions that you could do. There's collectibles, and like, you know, you level up. You go to stores. You buy items that you could equip. It has a mechanic where if you beat every enemy on screen and you have one left, they could join your party, and you could have them as like a support character that you could call in. And then in your phone, you actually have a log of all of the NPCs that you've gotten as support. So all the enemy types. So like, there's even a collect like aspect where you're like, I want to get every version of every NPC to join me at least once so I can log them. And it is just a deep, like mechanically, I mean, Art Systems published it. So like, or like, I mean, they worked on it. But like, there's combos that are so deep for a beat 'em up that I never, like, people are posting combo videos on a beat 'em up. Like, don't get me wrong, I know beat 'em ups have like really, you know, cool things that you could do, especially with 2 players. But like, this game in particular, it like feels like a fighting game at times. I will say it's very hard. Like, it is extremely punishing. I'm playing on the regular difficulty, and I have not fought a boss and lost 7 times before beating it. Like, it's just a constant, like, I get beat down. Another thing is the bosses. Like, they all have animated intros, and I mean, like, literally hand-drawn. Like, it's such a cool game, and every part of it is just such, like... I always say it's like it feels like it was made for me, man, because like the character designs are exactly actually an artist I follow worked on it. That's how I found out it was even coming out. And so it's just like it's a really fun game, and if you like beat 'em ups, highly recommend it. Even if you don't like beat 'em ups, I think as mechanically deep as this one gets, I think it's a great jumping on point for like what it is, because it has that open world aspect. It has all these other mechanics. It's an RPG. It's, you know, it's a collectathon, like it's all these things, but it never like feels like it's trying to be a different game. It all is wrapped up in this pretty little bow, and it's like, and the story is so cheesy and so dumb, but it's literally these 2 girls who are trying to rescue their boyfriends who are getting captured by like an enemy gang, like a school, and like the characters you meet are so ridiculous. There's this boy that you fight who he got rejected by a girl that he never met. She just started dating someone he liked. So he studied black magic so that he can like
wow, it's intense.
Become strong. It's so like absurd.
It sounds very Scott Pilgrim, like in terms of like, the story and the absurdity. Yeah,
all the characters are ridiculous. It's the same exact thing where it's like, oh, beat the 7 evil X's, and all of them are like just crazy people that you would never meet in real life. It's exactly like that. Every boss, like currently I'm on a boss. She like makes clothes, but she's a spider lady. Like her whole aesthetic is that she's kind of like a spider. She shoots webs, and I mean it's so weird. But I highly recommend it. I think it's like $30, which seems like a lot for how it looks for some people. I know like a lot of people see, you know, sprite based games and they're like, I'm not paying for that. But I highly recommend it. It's super fun, and yeah, like. I put more time into that than Astral Chain, and again, that's not because I think it's better than Astral Chain, but like there is this weird, like when I'm out, I'm like, man, I really kind of want to play it, and you know, I can. It works great in handheld. It's all of it's just good. I highly recommend it,
and it's a great example of female empowerment as opposed to Mrs. Monopoly. Have you guys seen this, Mrs. Monopoly?
No.
So
wow, what is that?
Look, I'm all for all sorts of equality, like 100%.
Yeah.
Mrs. Monopoly is Hasbro's new Monopoly version, where female players start the game with a $400 advantage, and when they pass go, they get an extra $40 in comparison to male players to have them feel like they have the upper hand. That
does the
sounds
exact
like
opposite.
sounds like a fun game.
What exactly is the purpose of that?
To
So
girl
wait,
power.
but so they're banking on the fact that like men and women are playing together.
Right.
It's just women have an advantage.
Right. Well, which like again, this is a no girls podcast crew here, so like who are we to talk about it? But the girls in my life, nobody wants to play a board game where they're given and gifted a huge advantage. So sorry, that's
isn't that the point of equality? We're all equal. Honestly, like I know a lot of girls that could kick my butt in Monopoly, not because they have an extra $40 or an extra turner for passing the show.
That's pretty.
Like, they don't need an edge; they can already do it. I suck at that game anyway, so
it's pretty.
That's so.
Pretty weird.
So
that's
bizarre,
pretty ridiculous.
Man. I also want to point out, like, as a
I kind of want to try it actually, just to see
if it's possible to overcome the deficit.
Yeah, I kind of do. Yeah.
I want to point out that Joseph isn't going MK Ultra on us. He's just having there's some glitching that's happening on your face that I don't think it's going to be able to be corrected in the edit. So there is a small portion of time where it looks like you're like glitching out, but we promise you're not a government operative or robot. So,
I mean, unless I am.
That's how you knew about Gears being open world.
You see, you're putting the pieces together. This is the Astral Chain detective portion.
I so wish that the 2 games I've been playing the most this week were on Switch, which is Borderlands 3, which I think would be, save for Nintendo's first party stuff, it would be like the best game on Switch.
Yeah.
It's so awesome, and it would be so cool to have, and I feel like it... Doom Eternal, Outer Worlds, how come Borderlands is not possible? But anyhow, and then PvZ Battle for Neighborville, like, I've been having a ton of fun with that, and I can't believe it's not on Switch.
Yeah, seriously, that would be the perfect game for
such
Switch. I don't even know why it wasn't just like a thought, like at least I don't know.
Are there any?
I mean, I'm sure they thought about it, but
is there anything that like has been said that leading to the fact that maybe one day PvZ in any capacity would be on Switch? Because I feel like it would flourish, no pun intended, there so well just because of the fact that like the aesthetic of it works. We need shooters on the Switch. It's such a fun game. I don't know why.
I mean, they did build a new engine. It looks very pretty. It actually like legitimately looks very pretty for a game that is having a very young and vibrant aesthetic. So I'm sure that's a part of it. But EA, they're the company that said that we don't need to put games on Switch because everyone will just buy it on PlayStation and Xbox. So, which I did, of course, but.
Although honestly, I haven't bought it for PlayStation or Xbox, and if it had come to Switch, I absolutely would have bought it.
Both those would be so freaking cool. But there was a note that, oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name. It's not Panic Button. It's another company that has done a lot of quality ports, saying like some of your favorite franchises are getting exclusives on Switch, which I thought was intriguing. Not going to be Borderlands or Plants vs. Zombies or any of those, but. It should be cool. Anything else on the Switch docket?
I played Spice and Wolf VR.
VR? Do you have the Labo VR?
Yeah, I got the Labo VR, of course. Yeah, of course. No. I wanted to make use of my VR again, so I was like, this is like finally another game for the VR. Honestly, would not recommend it.
Okay.
It's $25, and honestly, it probably should be like a $5 game, if that. So that's my biggest complaint. But I enjoy the anime. The anime is great. Like it's based on the anime Spice and Wolf. And so it's kind of just like this little scene. Like honestly, the whole venture takes like 40 minutes tops, where you're basically just sitting through a few scenes like from the anime. You're just watching kind of from the guy's perspective, and it's like it's cool. Like the sound effects, the music is all gorgeous, and like if you enjoy the anime, you'll enjoy getting to see that. And then there's like kind of, I want to say a mini game like afterwards, but not really. It's kind of you just interact with the environment, and then you hear stuff about it. And then like there's a segment where you get to pet the wolf girl.
I don't know why.
Sounds a little creepier than
it's honestly, I'd be surprised if that wasn't in it at this point. Let's be honest.
Oh no, exactly, yeah. But it's just from someone who has not watched the anime or anything, like that probably sounds a little wonky.
Yes.
Anyway,
I did this weird like internet YouTube reality TV show about building a VR game, and I helped a VR developer build a game, and her game, like, I don't know what this Spice and Wolf VR looks like, but in my head they're like the same game, and I know that they're not, but like what you're describing and just like looking in this like scene, and like it just sounds so much like that. But the novelty,
it's more like watching a show than it is playing a game, honestly. But I enjoy it for that because I had a good time with it. I wish it was a cheaper game, or at least had a lot more to do.
But what was it like to hold that Switch for 40 minutes in front of your face?
Oh, it didn't bother me, honestly. It was fine. Yeah, If I'd had to do it for a couple hours or something, then I definitely.
I feel like my
would've
arms would
gotten
get so tired after like 15 minutes. Be like, can't hold this up here anymore.
Well, I'm also being loose with the 40 minutes.
Okay.
I honestly think I spent maybe like 30 minutes
Gotcha.
tops or something. So it really wasn't. It really wasn't that long. Wasn't that complicated. I mean, I tried playing Zelda on the Switch VR, and that like immediately within like 20 minutes, I was like, this is killing my hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really not designed to like play a game against your face.
Yeah.
You know, it's more like if I'm just holding it, like again with like the Switch Blaster, like that works because you're just pressing one thing and it's more about aiming.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but if it's like you're actually having to play like up here, like that gets tiring really quick.
When I was really small, I had this this basketball game for N64, and I thought it was really cool that I would beat my friends with the controller behind my back, and that's what it like makes me think of. Like, look, I can play with the controller up by my face.
Exactly, yeah. It's a novelty, but it doesn't make sense. That's for
They're
sure.
trying to, I guess, double down. There's that new VR headset patent that was filed, which it's a plastic and foam version of the cardboard creation. I don't think it ever goes anywhere, but what I'd love to see them do is I think they should bring back. Did you guys ever have on like GBA those like episodes? You could get like episodes of Pokemon or SpongeBob on like carts.
Yeah.
That's what they should do
Video
with this VR.
Now, or whatever
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
called.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
They
I
should do
remember
that
that.
with that and just be like, okay, we don't know what else to do with our freaking Labo team, so we're gonna have some dopey cartoon show. Disney Plus now viewed in VR on your new Labo VR.
I mean, they could totally do it. I have the Oculus. What is it? The Oculus Go. It's like the standalone mobile Oculus. It plays like the
Quest.
weaker game. No, not the Quest. Not that one. It needs my phone. Like
Okay,
I
the
need to
Go.
actually
Yeah,
hook
yeah,
my phone
yeah.
into it. But anyway, so like they do a really awesome thing. I don't use it anymore, but like for a long time, I mainly streamed from there because like you can watch Netflix, and it does this really cool thing where you can like set the scene around you. So like you can make it so that you're watching it in like a forest or in like this, and it's so
In a yurt.
like,
Sick.
You
That's
could be
cool.
in the yurt
in a
with
yurt.
me.
Exactly. It's such a like. I mean, saying it's really funny because it's like you can watch it anywhere. You're streaming it from your phone, so for the most part, you probably can get away with it. But I don't know. It was such an interesting way to make use of like VR because like you're watching it, you could change the size of it. So like because obviously it's right up against your face, but visually speaking, like it does feel like the screen's bigger, like that you're making it this huge thing. It was really cool. So I think that would be awesome if it ever got Netflix or Disney Plus, the Switch,
Maybe
one day hopefully.
It'd be cool. I mean, one of my favorite things about like even the Google VR is just like going into like the theater mode, so it looks like you're actually at a theater and you can just watch
Exactly.
stuff on the screen, like stuff like that. If they could do more gimmicky things, just like watching, Nintendo, even like Nintendo related stuff, even if it's just Mario or just like Pokemon, like special episodes, like you
Yeah.
said, Zach. I feel like that would be a good use of what Labo VR can, pull off. But other than that, like it's pretty limited into what they're going to be able to do with VR unless they really up the graphics and also unless we maybe get a Switch Pro, which can actually pull off some better graphics. But anyway, I digress.
So that one gets a thumbs down at its price point.
Overall, yeah, I'll give it a thumbs out. I enjoyed it. I honestly did. So I won't fault someone else for enjoying it, but I will say price point is a big thumbs down.
Gotcha. Has anyone played SNES games?
I haven't yet.
I did one.
Oh, you did?
I did what was it, Breath of Fire? I like loaded it up and then it like hit me that's a full game. Like the SNES it's not like the NES games where it's like you play them for a bit and it's fun and the novelty's there. With SNES games it's like that's when games started getting real meaty and content and like you really got to sit down and play it. So, like, in terms of how the emulation played, it was fine. I didn't have a single problem with it. But at the same time, it's like, I just want to play River City Girls right now,
they don't have the games I want. So, like, the initial leaked list or whatever is supposed to have Donkey Kong Country, and they don't have any of those. That's what I was really looking forward to playing. And I think it's so weird that they, like, immediately after releasing them, they come out with this interview answer where they say that they're no longer going to be releasing the games on a regular schedule.
Yeah, I don't know why they did that. Like, even if that was the case, I don't know why they immediately say that.
I mean, unless to them they think it's a positive because, like, oh, every couple months we're going to get a 20, game drop or whatever. But it sounds like they're like, we've put some out there. You got Mario World and Link to the Past, so, like, hey, we gave you freaking Stunt Race FX, so be happy and shut up.
That's my thought on this, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm coming from a different angle, I guess. My thought is maybe that is their way of saying we're actually going to put more into those releases, like we're not going to do it every month and it's just be a thing we know we have to do. We got to put another game out, so let's throw, Mario World up there, or like we got to do this. Like maybe they are just going to put more into it, so yeah, it won't be as scheduled, but maybe they will do bigger drops with more games, or at least put more thought into it. I don't know. That would be my hope.
I hope.
Yeah, if that's the case, that's fine. Like, at that point, like, I don't mind it, because I think the NES, I mean, yeah, you got some really solid games released over its span, I guess, but that wait was atrocious. Like, some of it was just really bad, and then you'd see what games are coming out for a certain month, and you'd have no interest. So you know that now you have to wait for the next month's games to be announced to even slightly have something to look forward to.
Well,
so
now you don't have to
in
worry.
that aspect, I get it.
It's just
now it's just
whenever they feel like it'll happen. I've been waiting.
Now you have nothing to look forward to.
Yeah, I've been waiting for that for so long, but I feel like it's not going to move the needle at all. Like, I haven't booted it up yet. I probably won't until they give me DKC, and it should be a nice feature. Like, hey, as long as you have online, you can play, Mario World and Yoshi's Island and Link to the Past and Super Metroid on the go. I think the lineup is also odd. Like, there's some games that, yeah, I guess it's like just building out the library, but I don't know why some of them are on there. Like, I don't know why they didn't just go with a star-studded Nintendo lineup, and that then you don't have to add regularly because we already have all the stuff we like.
I don't know why the SNES Classic lineup wasn't just
the same. Well, because they want to still.
Of course, they want to sell that.
Do they still sell those? I don't even know.
Sometimes I'll go into like a Best Buy and I'll see
that. Yeah,
and I'm just like, well, that's there. I mean, I know that they wouldn't want to obviously make something that they put out obsolete, but I do think like having an SNES Pro and the whatever they're called, I've completely forgot now.
Classic.
But the NES Classic, thank you, and the SNES Classic, like, if you're getting that, it's more than just emulation.
Yeah,
you do want that. It's it's kind of the gimmick of it. So there is that, but yeah, it is very weird, the games that they chose. I do think that there are some great ones that if they didn't have, like A Link to the Past, I was worried that they weren't going to launch with that. I know it seemed like obviously they would do that, but when has Nintendo ever,
That's the one game I'm most stoked to play. I do kind of want to give Link to the Past a try, but then I'm also like, but are they eventually going to do a remake on the Switch? Should I just wait to play it? I don't know. So, but I would like to give that one a try.
I have to point out that Link to the Past is now available for free on the SNES app if you have Switch Online, and Link's Awakening, which is a remake of a game from roughly the same era, is $60.
Yeah,
but
that doesn't bode well either.
I'm still excited for it, and I wanted to talk about
same.
our Switch Lite plans a little because that's like next week.
Yep.
Are we midnight shopping it up? Is that the plan for everybody, or are we skipping Trip? I know you were like last time we touched on this. You were like not sure if you're gonna wait for the Pokemon one, not get it at all. Joseph and I have been converted by our experience.
I've decided that I super want one, but I've also decided that I cannot afford one.
Welcome to reality.
So we'll see. Reality sometimes sets in. So at least at the current time, I might have to wait a bit, or sell a couple things. Maybe we'll see.
Like those speakers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, nah, the speakers are staying, baby.
They have to. It's part of the brand.
Mario Red and Pikachu Yellow.
There you go.
Can't let go of those.
It's going to be an interesting night because it's like Switch Lite and Link's Awakening are both out. So coverage will be chaotic of like, okay, got to do the Switch Lite unboxing, try some things out, also play a little Link's Awakening to figure out what's going on there. But I feel good knowing that I have had substantial time with the Switch Lite, so I'm not going to be surprised by it. I don't know. Like, my Blasphemous experience today made me a little worried about how badly I want it. Like, I'm gonna get the Switch Lite, obviously, but
yeah,
I've been playing so much like TV gaming with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One titles lately that then I go to the Switch, and obviously it's nice, but I've been wanting to just use the Pro Controller.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's still possible with the Switch Lite. It just doesn't have a stand. Honestly, I'm excited for that little magnetic cover. I don't know if you guys saw that. It's only coming in Japan right now, but that looks pretty neat.
It does look nice. I mean, I'm hyped for it. I think, honestly, and that's kind of what I was trying to mention, like, I guess a couple podcasts back, where I said, for me, a lot of the times it's hard for me to play Switch handheld because I just constantly think how much more comfortable I'll be with a Pro Controller. A great example is I was playing, I had a similar thing where I felt for the first time handheld was limiting me to, like, an extreme extent, and I was playing Risk of Rain, which that game runs
that game
very well, honestly.
You need a controller for
but
Risk
you
of Rain.
need a controller. It's it is. I mean, unless you're playing
I was playing on a plane. I was playing Risk of Rain 2 on my plane to Idaho, and like handheld, and like my hands were literally dead within 30 minutes of playing. I was like, I have to play this on a controller.
Yeah,
and once I got back, I played on a controller, and it was a lot better experience.
Yeah, once you get to like the higher up, like the longer you are in your run, it just gets, I mean, impossible to play. But again, like, I think with the Switch Lite, I mean, obviously it's gonna be a little tough because we own regular Switches, but I almost feel like losing the fact that you can't just dock it and play will honestly make it, like, mentally feel like, I don't know, like, you sacrifice a lot of things. Like, I remember when the PlayStation Vita came out, I was like, man, this feels fine, like, whatever. But in reality, nobody wants to play Killzone on a small thing when they could play it on a TV. But I think the fact that that was all you could do kind of worked in its favor. So I think that the Switch Lite is going to trick us into thinking that all games are fantastic in portable mode. So there's that. I'm super excited about it, and I'm super excited about Link's
It's ironic
Awakening.
to play the devil's advocate here, but I honestly love playing handheld, so I feel like the Switch Lite makes perfect sense for me because I definitely would get a lot out of it. But at the same time, I could still do handheld on the regular Switch,
doesn't,
and I play. I don't have to have a Switch Lite to play handheld, but at the same time, I do love the colors, and I think it's going to be a great way to play handheld. And there are so many games that do benefit from playing handheld. Yeah. Honestly, I think Sword and Shield is going to be a great game to play handheld.
Definitely.
I think Link's Awakening is going to be a great game. Honestly, if you haven't picked up Fire Emblem yet, I played that game almost entirely handheld, and it was a blast. So there are a lot of cool games that I think are going to benefit from playing on that system and in a more fun and colorful way, and with honestly some pretty tight feeling controls from what I've gotten to see of the Switch Lite. Jack, you said you really enjoyed kind of how like the built-in Joy-Cons, not Joy-Cons, but the controls worked.
The built-in cons. Well, they do bring a lot of joy because they're very pretty color. Are you rocking the yellow still, Joseph? Is that?
Yeah, 100%. I anytime I think Switch Lite, that's it. That's the
think
only
of
thing
yellow.
that comes to my head.
I think of the.
Are you gonna get yellow or blue? Zach? Have you shifted?
No, I'm getting turquoise, and then I'm gonna trade it
Nice.
for the Pokemon one when it comes out because
Yeah,
that is the
That
place
Pokemon one, man.
to be.
it's fire, dude.
Is anybody trading up for an iPhone 11? That event happened. It's basically an Apple Direct.
Yeah.
With a lot of gaming, surprisingly. I don't know if you guys
A lot
paid
of
attention.
gaming,
My one call out there, I don't want to spend time on Apple Arcade, but I will say that the new Enter the Gungeon title, I love that franchise is getting a new entry. It's like a climber, kind of like Shovel Knight
It's like-
Dig or like Downwell
Like
or
Escape
whatever.
the Dungeon, dungeon, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, that looks hot. I'm excited for that. But the new iPhone 11 Pro powered by Sam Fisher's goggles, what do we think?
Very weird looking. But, I mean, I'm probably going to end up upgrading. Just because,
You're a victim of Apple.
At this point, I
Apple.
really, really, really am, and I hate it. But that's just the game. That's just how it works. Again, it seeing it, the Sam Fisher goggles thing is really throwing me off because that is so funny. That is so apt of a description of how it looked. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's another iPhone. Obviously, it's trying to do more. But at the end of the day,
It's just nothing that exciting, really. It's like a better phone with a better camera and better battery.
and that's always what
it feels like it's the Switch V2 or whatever that one's called. Like, it's the same phone, but it's a little better. Like, obviously, if you're gonna get one and they're similarly priced, that's the one you get. I totally was not gonna get it at all, but then I realized that I have not upgraded in 2 years, which means I fully own my iPhone X, so I can pawn that off on eBay and then use that cash to basically cover the first year of iPhone 11. So like, I might as well at this point.
So maybe it's worth it. Yeah.
Literally, it's that same for me.
Well, also, if you've had it for 2 years, then you know it's about to happen.
Yeah, it's about to die anyway.
It's about to go to crud and die. So you might.
This is the first time since that I set out an upgrade since like probably the iPhone 3G. Like I got it every year except, and honestly, I did buy an iPhone XS and I left it in the box and I never opened it, so I just got rid of it. Yeah.
Man. Yeah, can't relate. This is actually the iPhone X was my first iPhone. Like that was me jumping back. I left after the 5. But a lot of my like work, I work primarily from an iPad, and I don't pay for internet on it. Like it's just Wi-Fi. It doesn't have like a mobile connection at all. So when I'm out working, let's say I'm like someplace that doesn't have Wi-Fi,
like
and
a yurt?
finish up a commission, like a yurt, exactly. I could have really used just airdropping it to my phone and sending out emails and getting it done that way. So I was like, you know what? I'll just get the phone. I'll get the iPhone. And I did, and I haven't upgraded. So, yeah, I think it's about time for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, not for me. I've got the 10. I feel like I just got it. Like I feel like it's been a year, but I still feel like I just got it. I'll wait for the 12. And then
I feel like every year they're like, next year is the real monumental change. Next year is the big change.
Yeah.
Next year is the one that will redefine.
I'm still waiting for the bendable glass that they promised.
Yeah, where's
us,
that?
And that was supposed to be for the 10, and that hasn't come yet. So
I think it's cool that they continue to add colors. I also think it's weird the colors that they choose to add for their Pro models, like this midnight green. It's like such a... I don't know, they're trying to come up with like elitist colors. Like, we can't have fun colors in the Pro model. Those have to be reserved for the bottom model because there's no messing around with $1,000 phone. Let's get into a couple viewer questions. Remember, follow us on Twitter. I'll try to post a day before. I've been bad about just like posting a couple hours before. It has escaped my mind. But I'll post earlier so you guys can't ask away at twitter.com/SwitchForce. Today's first question comes in from Thomas28. I hope this is not his phone number. I'm not even going to read it. Thomas. It really looks like it might be his phone number. Thomas says, which Nintendo Switch games do you think will be eligible for the Game Awards this year? Smash, Astral Chain, Mario Maker? What do you think? Now, I think he means... he may mean eligibility, but I want to take this question as like, which have a chance to win awards. And the reason that Smash is included is because I don't believe it was part of last year's awards because there's a cutoff date for Jeff Keighley's show, and it came out in December. Yeah. So obviously I think Smash Bros. Is a heavy candidate to win some significant awards. Do you think Mario Maker or Pokemon or any of the other releases this year have a shot?
I want Pokemon to have a shot so bad. I really, really do.
You also called camping in Pokemon. By the way,
I know. I freaked out, man. I was like, "Oh man!" It was exactly how I imagined it too, with the cooking and everything. Really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but graphically, it looked even better. It looks better every time.
But Joseph, they're reusing the same animations from.
I know,
Pokemon
man. I can't believe it.
I'm so sick of that. I don't ever need to hear it again. Ever.
Honestly, it's really such a. I don't know. People are getting too upset about it. It's going to be a fun game, and that's all that matters. I want Pokemon. I want Smash as well to get awards, because I just think at this point, Smash is doing something that's never been done before. I say it all the time. It has become the Hall of Fame for gaming, and Terry's also there.
Terry is part of the Hall. Yeah, I was going to say, got a free Hall pass in the Hall of Fame.
I actually got hyped about that, but we'll talk about that eventually one day. But I honestly think, and man, Zach, I am so sorry you're going to hate me for this. I really, really think that Fire Emblem Three Houses deserves...
It probably does.
It deserves to be up there, man. It is the first Fire Emblem game that I feel like finally people are like, wow, this is a good game. So off that alone,
Wow.
like I think because it did what Awakening did, where it finally made it to the West and was semi-popular. But this just, I mean, the weeks after it came out, that was all anybody was talking about, and that was fantastic. And a bit nauseating, but I do think that stands a real chance. Mario Maker 2, I think, should win something. I mean,
So where does it fit in? Like family game?
that's the problem, exactly. And at that point, I feel like you're doing it a disjustice. If it wins family like game, people are going to be like, wow. Yeah, I think Mario Party won last year for like family. And I don't know. It's just such a
How?
weird.
No, I'm just kidding. Okay.
Yeah, I really don't know. I don't remember what else was there.
I mean, if Mario Party won last year for family, then I'd say Mario Maker 2 is hands down a
better
great
one.
candidate for that. Yeah, and a far better candidate, yeah.
Yeah.
I hope Sword and Shield gets some love. I do think Fire Emblem deserves it, but for some reason I don't see it happening.
Yeah,
I mean, Pokemon would have to beat out Fire Emblem probably in any sort of RPG category.
I mean, 100% for me it will. Like, as
Yeah.
much as I fell in love with Fire Emblem, the moment I'm holding Pokemon, it's over. Like, I don't care about any other
I'm
game
gonna
on this list.
enjoy Sword and Shield, like honestly, better than anything because that's my most anticipated game of the year. But I will say, what Fire Emblem did was more impressive than so far what I think Sword and Shield is doing. But I think Sword and Shield is doing everything I could possibly want. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that I was genuinely surprised by what all they were able to accomplish with Fire Emblem. I think Sword and Shield's a good candidate. I'm guessing, does Luigi's Mansion 3, does that not fall? Is that
will.
too
It'll be-
late?
no,
or is
no,
it
No,
it's fine.
it'll be good.
Honestly, I think Luigi's Mansion 3 is going to have a lot of surprises as well. I do think it looks phenomenal. Everything I keep seeing, like, it keeps getting better and better with, like,
Yeah.
the new floors, like the disco floor and the pirate floor. Like, oh my gosh, it looks so good. And like, Zach, you were talking about it, like, the addition of, like, the Luigi kind of party, you know?
Yeah.
Like, 4 people play as
Mario
Luigi.
won
They're
last
adding a
year.
lot to that
I'm going to
game.
win this year. No, I think my maybe obvious but not too obvious award winner for Switch, and it's on PC as well, would be Katana Zero as like indie game of the year. I think that has a legitimate high
It's got a real
probability
shot.
of winning that, and it's fantastic on Switch. It's one of the best games of the year,
Yeah.
of any game. But I think that one probably takes at least. It's hard because it's like, okay, like are we going to really compare like? I know a lot of people love Outer Wilds, but like Katana Zero versus Outer Wilds just doesn't even feel fair. I guess they're in the same category,
Yeah.
but it's that's like such a weird one. But I do think it still has a chance.
Yeah, it's so funny you said that. I forgot about Katana Zero. Not by any fault of the game. That game was probably, the one of the best experiences I had on Switch ever. Just because going into it, I was not expecting half of what that game gave me.
Yeah.
Everything about that game was just blew me away. That's a story game that, I mean, the whole time I was on edge. So yeah, I would love to see Katana Zero make it. And we saw Celeste go up for Game of the Year.
Sure.
What, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Or was that last year? So
Two.
I'd be ecstatic to see Katana Zero get that love. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah,
I mean, Switch had
but
a lot
can
of
it
games.
really beat out Legend of the Skyfish?
Can it beat out Blasphemous and
Well-
the Blood Helmet? I don't know. I also don't know the answer to Chaz MKE's question, which is, what is the best sandwich?
Oh, wow.
Loaded questions now. This is the tough one.
Loaded sandwich is I'm gonna go first with a sad answer so that you guys could have a better answer. But I'm incredibly picky, so literally my sandwich consists of like just cheese, lettuce, and ham and turkey, maybe some salt and vinegar, and that's about it. It's like the most boring sandwich. Anytime I order it, they're like, "Oh, so you just want like a really plain, simple sandwich?" Every single time I'll get that. I was like, "Yeah, that's very simple." Actually, no. Sometimes I'll put spinach on.
Hey,
it,
look,
so-
you're
anyway.
adventurous.
There you go.
Yeah. So. Yeah, very adventurous. So yeah, I don't think I'm the right person for this question. My sandwich does not consist of much.
My favorite sandwich is from the local California eatery, Mendocino Farms. It is the Mary's chicken and prosciutto sandwich, but you dump the prosciutto, double the chicken, put it on a toasted pretzel roll, and it is amazing. There's like candied,
Wow, that's an answer.
candied like pecans on it, or almonds. Sorry, candied almonds, and this like fantastic aioli, and it's a dream. I have it like 5 times every time I'm in LA. So Mendocino Farms, you want to come to Florida, where we have open arms for you.
That's
Dude,
intense. I
That
wish I
made
went
me
to-
hungry, and I don't.
I
You
wish I
can
went
go.
first,
I probably wouldn't even
man.
enjoy
You
it.
can go.
Yeah.
It's nearby.
How near?
There's a bunch of them.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
nice. I'll check it out.
There you go. Just take that.
I won't get
order
much
verbatim.
on it, but I'll.
It's all natural. It's all healthy. One time they gave me a free side because I was wearing a Nintendo shirt, and the guy was like, "I love Nintendo." I was like, "Wow, I love you. This is nice."
That is awesome. Man, I don't even eat sandwiches like that. Really, I think the last
Peanut butter and
the
jelly.
last sandwich. No, not. I mean, I love me a good PB&J. You know those. You guys remember those Uncrustables from like elementary?
yeah.
Those are bomb, man.
Uncrustables.
Yeah, that's what they were called, right? I think I'll usually go for anything that's super, just a bunch of Italian meats. You're good. You get some salami. You get some. I mean, I could really eat any sandwich. I'm not really picky when it comes to sandwiches. I used to be. I used to only be able to eat literally salami and provolone with bread. That was like when I was a kid.
That was me too. Yeah.
That was like all. That was all I can eat. That's all I would eat. Then I got a little fancy. I put some mayo on it. Worked my way up into the world. And now, really, sandwiches are just. I just take them for what they are. I think I'm not gonna choose one. That's the road. I'm going the high road. You guys chose a favorite. I'm gonna just say.
Do you have a favorite shop, like a favorite place you go to have a sandwich?
I would say. Recently, I went to. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Jersey Mites. Mm-hmm. It's like it's like Subway, absolutely. I guess. I don't know. There's none really in New York.
Way too often.
Yeah, there's one that's opening in New York, but I don't think there ever was one. So like the closest one was like 4 hours away, and because I went to Maryland, me and my family happened to pass one, and we had it, and that place is pretty good. I like it. So I guess I'd say that.
There you go. The important answers about sandwiches. Again, not a lot of questions this week, so get after it next week, boys and girls. What are you guys looking forward to this coming week? The big Switch release is Daemon X Machina. Is anyone planning on? There's another demo. You don't even have to pick it up. You can play the beginning of the game, which I could not believe that that game. I swear that game has as much like direct representation as like Mario Odyssey did. It has been mentioned in so many directs and has so much.
Literally, yeah.
It's crazy, but yeah, that's the big release between now and next.
I'm having a hard time still being excited for that game,
at all.
but I do at least want to try out the new demo, give it another shot, maybe.
You're a better man than I. I'm just like over that game so much.
Super over it. Yeah.
I really want to get into it because I always wanted to get into like the mech genre, just because it always seems like so fun. That community loves what they love, and they love it hard. So I'm just sitting as an outsider, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, it's like Armored Core, which I know is a beloved franchise that kind of fell off. So like, I want to get it, but yeah, I guess same. It's really hard getting hyped for it. They did just release a super anime trailer. It was literally like a 3-minute animation on Nintendo's channel. Just that was the trailer, and it was super sick. They quoted Dante's Inferno, actually, not the game. The book.
Gosh, scared me for a second.
Yeah, but so yeah, I mean, it looks. The reviews got me more interested than the game itself. Now seeing that there is that, I did, however, get the controller.
You did the
bulky,
giant. Well, that's what we got to hear about next week. Then we got to hear that review of Giant Joy-Con.
Yeah, excited about that. I love that the X is the Daemon X Machina logo. That's super sick. Also, it's half the price of Joy-Cons.
There you go.
So that's cool.
Can't connect those to Switch Lite, but
nope, you cannot. So not the best.
And the Switch Lite will be out by the time we record, but I don't know. Maybe we'll do a late recording or something to take into account. We'll have to see, but I think that'll do it for this week. We will be back. That week off was a anomaly, not a regularity. So thank you so much for being here. Make sure to leave us a review on iTunes if you're listening to the audio version, or leave us a comment if you're watching on YouTube. Don't be scared by Joseph's MK Ultra issues. And don't be scared by Blasphemous. I think there's a lot of good stuff to play on Switch, whether you're diving into the eShop or getting something from your store shelves, and it just is going to keep happening because there's Zelda, and then we have a little reprieve, but there's cool indie games. Honestly, the game I'm most hyped for right now, and I want to close on this, the game you're most excited for after this rush, is Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. Everything I see out of that looks so cool, and since they didn't give me Donkey Kong Country in the SNES app, I'm like, great, I'm getting it from these guys instead, and it comes out, I think, October 18th, so it's pretty close at this point.
Wow, that is soon, yeah. I think it's so interesting that they went full platformer on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
It looks fantastic. That it really does look like a good get. I'm excited for Celeste Chapter 9.
Hey!
You know, it's dropping.
That's
real
right.
soon.
It's out!
Yeah.
It's out.
Is it
Yeah,
out?
It's out. It came out Monday this week. Yeah, I just forgot to download
Oh
it.
shoot,
Man.
you're right. That was just a couple days ago. Yeah. Whoops. Yeah.
Wow.
So I need to download that. Need to play that. I'm
That's a
excited
good
to
one.
finish Astral Chain. Obviously, Link's Awakening. I'm excited for that. So there's a lot of great games on the horizon, man. A lot of cool things coming up.
Yeah. I'm really excited about Overwatch coming to Switch.
Ooh, there you go.
Yeah.
Same day as
I know the
Yooka-Laylee.
whole- I know the 30 frames per second thing is getting a lot of people upset, which huge hit. Very upset about it. But you know, I'm interested to see a big game hit. But obviously, I think the biggest one is Pokemon. But we're still too far for me to really let
They
that.
won't
hype sink
even
in
show
all
us
way.
the freaking evolution to the starters.
Well, we did figure out October, right? They usually do it in October. We had that talk once, like, man, 2 months ago? The last big Pokemon Direct. I think we realized that they did for Sun and Moon. They showed the starters
Yeah.
in October, and then the game dropped in November. So there we go. We're gonna get it eventually. Hopefully.
Hopefully we will see you all next week. Thank you so much for being here. Big thanks as always to you two guys for sharing your Switch weeks with me and with us. It has been a busy one, but that is awesome. And hopefully the dawn of the Switch Lite will bring new fun and also new debates on whether it's worth it, necessary, or a waste of money. But we'll have to find out next week. Until next time, everybody, thanks so much for being here. Have a fantastic weekend. SwitchForce